لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض، إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، رحمة للعالمين، طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين، ورحمة الله على محبيهم، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم، وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتبارك في كتابه الحكيم وفرقانه المجيد وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Respected sisters and brothers, my youngsters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'a wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Baijaz Aishuma inshallah. As we have been continuing our discussion on building, developing, maintaining, strengthening the self, the advice, the ayat, the verses of the Holy Quran and the ahadith of Ali Muhammad alayhi salam gives us the guidelines and gives us the guidance. We find that sometimes when we are on this path to developing the self, we are on this path to reaching towards the qurbat, the closeness, the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's lots of obstacles and there's many bumps along this path. It's not always an easy path to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's full of different challenges, and these challenges are in sometimes ways that we cannot even imagine, and we would be startled at those challenges and obstacles. When the mu'mineen come to the mimbar, to the majlis, to the Husainiyas, to the lectures, whether it is Muharram, Shahr Ramadan al-Sharif, whether it is the shahadat or the wafat or the wiladat of any of the masumeen, there's a certain expectation that they want to leave with some sort of an intellectual gift, an intellectual hadiyah, and they want to be able to take something with them when they leave the precincts of the Imam Bargah, the Husainiyah. And in the process of wanting to take something, there may be some difficulties that the community encounters. And whoever sits on the mimbar, whoever is sahib mimbar, has got that responsibility on their shoulders to be honest, to be clear and concise, and to make sure that we realize what challenges and obstacles are in front of us so that we are able to solve those challenges and problems and difficulties. If we start sugarcoating every poison pill, then it'll be a problem for us ourselves. You just heard that there's going to be a health checkup and too much sugar is going to be called into question. You heard all that, and inshallah I hope you will take advantage of the opportunity that is being availed. These are opportunities that not many communities get. So alhamdulillah, by us having it, it is a grand opportunity inshallah. And so sometimes what we hear from the mimbar might be difficult for us to digest, but this is a reality that we're facing in. The doctors will tell any patient that in order for you to be cured of any illness, you first have to know that you have an illness. You first have to recognize that there is something wrong, and only then can you be treated. It is a reality in the life that we live in. Whether one looks at the Islamic etiquette or not, it is a reality in the life that we live in. In order for you to be treated for any illness, you have to tell the doctor what is hurting, what is happening, how you feel, when you feel that. And these are all issues. When I was talking about the the discussion on depression as well, on anxiety, on heavy-heartedness, and some of these challenges that faces, whether they are medical issues or not directly medical issues. And when I say not directly, because one of the things that experts today are saying is even things like depression, anxiety, mental illnesses are really illnesses. They may not be seen the way, for example, if somebody has a bruise, somebody has a cut, somebody has a zahir, an open disease or an illness that they can be seen. If somebody has chicken pox, you know that they have this. But there are certain diseases that cannot be seen, but you know that they are there. So in order for that treatment to take place, one has to acknowledge it. And if you don't acknowledge it yourself, somebody near to you has to help you acknowledge it. And that's what we were just discussing last night at the health forum when we were discussing the well-being initiative that is taking place. And inshallah you'll see posters, you'll hear about it more. That we need each other's help in order to go on this path of treatment. We need each other's help. So that treatment and that help for each other was something that Islam instituted 1400 years ago by making the commandment of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar wajib upon us. That we have to make sure that as a community, one person is not progressing, he or she is helping everybody around them progress as well. One person is not refraining from muharramat, but he or she is encouraging others around them to refrain from the muharramat as well. And that's when we attain, that's when we achieve that true bliss, the true pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One salawat upon Muhammad and ala Muhammad. So moving forward in today's discussion, as I said, there might be some discomfort, and inshallah in other discussions that we will have from now till the time that I'm here, there will be discomfort. And I'm not saying I'm happily saying that, but in reality I'm saying that because if we are not very uncomfortable, then perhaps I have not done my job properly. Because the purpose of us coming to the majalis, not only in Ramadan and Muharram, but other times as well. And of course, one of the things that the Zakireen know, and the ulama know, and I'm sure your resident alim, visiting alims, Sheikh Sakaleen Sahab, aap bhi humko bataiye agar hamari koi galti ho gayi hai. Ayatollah Al-Furqani is also here, he can also correct me inshallah. One of the things we find, and perhaps maybe not so much in this community, in East Africa and Tanzania, especially in Dar es Salaam, but in other parts of the world where I am from, we have Rim Muslims. And people think that these are people working at BlackBerry. No, I'm not talking about those Rim Muslims. Because mashallah, in fact in our own small community of Kitchener-Waterloo, more than half of our majma used to be Rim workers. We were working at BlackBerry. Now, bichara, BlackBerry might be marhum soon, but khair. We also find that by Rim Muslim, I'm not talking about that Rim, I'm talking about Ramadan, Eid and Muharram Muslims. Those who will only come out in Ramadan, Eid and Muharram. So when we have one of these three opportunities, we try to maximize our time, and inshallah the mu'mineen maximize their time as well. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. One of the things that in the past, whenever I used to go to the public schools, universities, high schools, colleges, I used to be very pleased to tell them that as far as the family life in Islam is concerned, we have got very much emphasis on maintaining, strengthening and enhancing the family. And I used to tell them that in our community, for example, our divorce rate was very low, our rate of friction, family and problems was very low. And with that, I was able to go to many places and speak highly of our own ethics and etiquettes. Sadly, the reality has changed in one generation, maybe 1.5 generations. It seems like our community is catching up to the non-Muslim community when it comes to these issues. Family breakups, divorces. And it seems like there's a problem in the community that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed very quickly and urgently and seriously and wholeheartedly as well. And one of the most effective and important places where this can take place is from Mimbar Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. Because now what happens is that we're catching up, and I'm not talking, and I'm not saying that I'm afraid of numbers, that we should not have that many numbers, this many numbers. I'm not talking about those kinds of things. I'm not saying that we should be better in this way and better. I'm saying that there's a genuine issue that needs to be talked about, addressed and dealt with. The same way that an illness cannot be dealt with until I recognize that I might have cancer. Unless I recognize I might have diabetes or I might have high cholesterol, until I recognize that, the doctor cannot do anything for me. The same way, until we recognize that there are social issues in our community that need to be faced, we will not be able to treat them either. We forget sometimes our message. The message that we have received from the Quran and Majid, and the message we have received from Ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, which has been our whole emphasis since the very beginning of our discussions. Sometimes we listen to various hadith, we listen to various du'as, we listen to various recitations, but we are not applying them and enforcing them in our hearts, our minds, and in our lives. Every one of you has probably, maybe not probably, has certainly heard a very famous hadith, one of the most famous hadiths. This hadith was revealed in the circumstances around an ayat in Quran and Majid in Surah Ahzab. The 33rd surah of the Quran, the 33rd ayah, the last half of the 33rd ayah, Allah Ta'ala is saying that إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. When was this revealed? How was this revealed? Under what circumstances does this come down? Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari narrates from the authority of Hazrat Fatima Zahra Siddiqah Tahira alayhi salatu wassalam. Salli ala Muhammad. As to what transpired tonight, I am not going to do the tarjuma, the translation of hadith kisa. A tamaru kaam che jaine garma tamilu ka pote wanchi liyo, eno tarjuma to wanchi liyo. પણ આ જે મકસદ જેના બારામાં મને આજ વાત કરવી છે, એ મકસદ તરફ તમારી અગર તવજ્જો રહેશે તો ઇન્શાલ્લાહ આજની ગુફ્તગુમાં આપને લુત્ફ થઈ જશે. We will benefit inshallah, because you can read the translation of it. It's available in almost every language, and if you don't have it in every language, Hazrat Google Translate will do it for you in whatever language you want. Khair. What was the circumstance? Again, I'm going to briefly come to what is relevant to what I want to say today in the discussion. Hazrat Fatima is narrating that I was at home when the door knocked and Rasulullah entered and said salam to me and entered my house. Assalamu alaikum ya bint. Oh, peace be upon you, O my daughter. And she replies, wa alaikum assalam. She replies to him, and then he says to her, I'm not feeling up to par. I'm just paraphrasing this, just for the benefit of the moment. And he says, bring me the Yamani blanket, the chadar. I want to go into my room and lie down. And then Hazrat Fatima narrates that a little while later, again the door knocks, and Imam Hassan in Mujtaba, young child, I'm saying Imam Hassan, but he was just a young child. He enters, Assalamu alayki ya ummahu. He greets her. The foundation of the family is something that Hadith Qissa talks about, but perhaps we have not given it the attention that it deserves. When Imam Hassan, a young child, is entering the house of his own house, he is saying salam to Hazrat Fatima Zahra, salam, his mother. He's saying salam. The conversation begins with salam. And she replies to him, wa alayka salam, ya qurrat aini wa thamarat fuadi. And she replies to him, wa alayka salam, and peace be with you as well. O light of my eye, the apple of my heart, the fruit of my efforts. She replies to him very beautifully, lovingly. And he mentioned that I smell the fragrance of my grandfather. And all of that, please, you must do at home. A little while later, because he's joined Rasulullah in the other room, a little while later, Imam Hussein knocks, he enters. Look at the conversation that is taking place here. He says salam to his mother, wa alayka salam, ya qurrat aini wa thamarat fadi. The greeting is replied in the exact same way between her children. There is no favoritism. There is no, I like him better than him. I like that child better than that child. Full and complete equality is maintained in amongst her children. And one time a lady comes to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She's talking. She is having a conversation with Janab Aisha. And sometime later she had brought her children with her. Sometime later that lady leaves. The Prophet tells Aisha that she is from the people of Jannah. She is from Ahl Jannah. She goes, Ya Rasulullah, how can you say that? You just saw her for a few minutes. You didn't even talk to her. He goes, no, but I saw one thing in her. She said she had her two children with her. She had 3 candies, 3 sweets. She gave one to each of the 2 children. The third one, after a while, when the children were starting to get a bit restless, she divided that third candy, the third sweet, in half and gave half to each one. Because of that quality of treating her children equally, she was amongst the people of Jannah. Because that equality is a quality that is necessary for those who enter into paradise. And you see how Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein also enter. Assalamu alayki ya ummah. Peace be upon you all. They don't barge in and walk in and say, where's my iPod? Where's the television? Where's my games? Where's my toy? Tabhi kya rakha tumhari cheeju? I'm not talking about this community. I've gone to places where children just storm in and they want their toys and they want their games and they want their iPad and they want their, pods and pads and all these things. They want their games. They want the remote of the television. They want to immediately start playing on the internet and their games and Allahu Akbar. And those games and those televisions and the iPods and all that becomes a babysitter. It becomes a babysitter for the children. And those television shows, I was reading just before I came to Tanzania, I was reading a report. And it was saying that if a child is watching more than, I don't remember the exact amount, it was about an hour and a half of television in a day, their intellectual capacity reduces. When their intellectual capacity reduces, when their intellectual ability goes down, their akhlaq also goes down. Their ability to interact with their friends goes down. Their insaniyat and their akhlaqiyat also suffers. And then parents come to us, Maulana sahab, humko taweez dijiye, hamara bacha bahut badmash ho gaya hai. Bapa, the taweez was in your hands already. You don't need the Maulana to go to it. Now you're coming to the Maulana when the cancer has spread. Now you're asking us for a treatment. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It works on both sides. The parents are just as much to blame as the children are. The children, maybe they don't have the time, they don't get the quality time. A misconception that many parents have is, well, I'm home all day, I'm spending the time with my children. There is something in modern psychology that is called quantity time, and there is something in psychology that is called quality time. Children are thirsty for quality time, not quantity time. Anybody can give them quantity time. Anybody can sit and give them that time. The quality time when you are sitting, talking, and making sure that they are benefiting something is something a whole world apart than just having time, quantity time with them. And until and unless we build our lives and change our lives and start implementing hadith-e-qissa in our lives, we will continue to have these frictions and disagreements and problems and issues with our children, and the children will feel that the parents don't understand us. It's a two-way street. It works both ways. And what a beautiful lesson we get from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam if we only open our minds and our hearts and apply the lessons. Not just come here. I often complain whenever I go to different places. I have a complaint. Sadly, the complaint is that hadith-e-qissa becomes a time filler. Nikah no time thei gyu che, Maulana nathi aaya, su course wapre. Hadith-e-qissa pari lyo. The program is a bit early, have Majma આવ્યા નથી, માણસો આવ્યા નથી, હવે આપણે શું કરીએ? બસ હદીસ કિસ્સા પઢી લ્યો. So it becomes a time filler. And like anything else, if you put, some ulama have complained, Zakirin have complained, હું તો spare tire છું, જાય બીજે કોઈ બોલાના ના મળે ત્યારે મને બોલાવશે. And so when you use these things as spare tires, when you use these things as fill in the blanks, and you have those fillers, you've got a hole in the wall, you put some polyfill, you just temporarily cover it up. ખાડો તો ઢંકાઈ ગયો પણ અંદર શું થાય છે? What is happening inside is the problem. And so when you put hadith-e-qissa and this as a time filler, then the meaning and the emphasis of that is lost. When that is lost, then our whole life can suffer as well, because we're not benefiting the true benefit of what the hadith is telling us. Sometime later, Amirul Mu'mineen comes, knocks the door. How does he greet her? Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulillah. The respect is established. He doesn't say कि धनी तो हूँ छो, मैं मियाँ हूँ, मैं क्यों वो मुझे सलाम करने चाहिए, उसको मुझे सलाम करना चाहिए, मैं तो मर्द हूँ, मैं ये हूँ. And some men, again, I'm not talking about, I have not been here long enough to make any assessment about this community. I'm just telling you from what I have experienced. Sometimes men walk in, barge into their homes like gorillas, and then they wonder why there's a tiger on the other side. They walk in like Dracula and they wonder why is she a vampire, huh? You look at ourselves. Problem is that we we are looking at his problems and her problems and their problems and theirs. We're forgetting what is my problem. Let me see that first. Let me see. Amirul Mu'mineen, Imamul Muttaqeen, the one who was the victor of Badr, Khaybar, Khandak and Uhud. He is coming into his house. How does he come in? Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulullah. Sociologists will tell you a very basic fundamental, so basic that sometimes I'm ashamed on the mimbar just to say something so simple. It says, if you want to get respect, give respect. And this applies for any human being, whether it's an outsider in the Jamaat or whether it's your family member in the house. You want respect? Everybody wants respect. Badaine respect kape, badaine taazim kape che, badaine ehtaram kape che. Maslo e thai gyu che ki koine ehtaram devu nathi, levu che. And so the Imam is telling us, and you know what else psychology tells us? When you're coming into your house, we know you've had a hard day. We know you've gone through a lot of difficulties. You've gone through a lot of challenges. They say that leave your luggage outside. Do you think anybody sitting here works or has worked like how my Mawla Ali ibn Abi Talib was working on the fields, on the burning sands, no air conditioning, and working on the fields, and he comes in, who has the right, who has the haq to be tired? Batao. Coming in there, what does he do? He leaves the baggage outside. He leaves those problems outside. In fact, they tell us even in North America, if you want to truly be fresh, before you reach your house, either go for a 2-minute walk, or a 2-minute drive somewhere where you are relaxing yourself. You're emptying your mind of what has happened, the tensions and the pressures. Because what ends up happening, why we become gorillas and Draculas? Because I've got this burden. And she doesn't understand what my burden is. Who 8-10 kalak kaam karine aayo cho. Tane khabar thi husud hu taje. How will she know, bichari? We just expect, we just assume. And so they say, clear the mind, leave the baggage outside. And then you enter, and when you say salam, mean the salam. What is salam? Allahu Akbar. Thousands of you, on thousands of occasions, have heard the meaning. It's very simple. Assalamu alayka, assalamu alayki, assalamu alaykum, assalamu alaykum. Peace be with you. Very simple. What does that mean? Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada alayhi salatu wasalam has given a tafsir. Has given a comprehensive meaning that when you say salamun alaikum to somebody, do you know what you're saying? You are making an agreement, you're making a pact, a deal with them. You are telling them that I am praying for your peace, your security, I am praying for your salamati. I am praying for you, but at the same time, I will try and protect you. I will help you when you need help. I will not do your ghibat or your tuhmat. I will look after your safety. I will make sure that your belongings, your izzat, your name, your reputation is protected. I will make sure when you are ill, I will be there to help you out, to visit you. If you pass away, I will make sure that I attend your funeral. And the person who is replying the salam, they are also making the agreement with you. And I've actually had mu'mineen come to me and say that after tomorrow I'm going to stop saying salam to anybody. कहते हुए सलाम करूँगी आओ गया गर्दन में रस्सी बांधने की बात है. कुछ लोग ये समझेंगे कि रस्सी गले में बांधने की बात है. कुछ लोग ये सोचेंगे कि परवरदिगार की रजा के लिए एक अमल हम कर रहे हैं जो परवरदिगार राजी है इसके साथ. You can either stop saying salam or try to implement what the salam is saying. So if that salam is the same for an ordinary person, the same salam is for your family members as well. He enters like that. And sometimes this lack of respect, lack of communication. Ayatollah Ibrahim Amini, in his book Principles of Marriage and Family Ethics, beautifully talks about how families need to be. In one part of the book, he is actually talking to the man. He is having a very beautiful conversation. And he's telling the man, he said, don't think that just because your wife was home, if she's a stay-at-home mother, if she's a stay-at-home wife, don't think that she was sitting watching television, soap operas and dramas all day. Don't think that she was just sitting with her feet up. She must have had her tensions. She must have had her stresses. She must have had her issues and responsibilities. Things must have gone wrong. Things must have gone wrong at home. Very nicely he's done this. And I encourage even those who have been married for years to think or pretend that you're now getting married and start reading these simple books. Because in the other half of the book, then he is also talking to the wife and saying that, be understanding with your husband. Maybe he doesn't always communicate or express himself. Maybe he's got these issues. Maybe something happened at work. And in a very nicely colloquial way that he is talking about how to maintain, enhance, strengthen and keep the family bonds. So the Imam is entering, he says salam to her. She replies, wa alayka salam, ya Abul Hasan, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. The name is not taken. A lot of times Mu'mineen have asked that, Surah Al-Hujurat talks about not giving nicknames and not, calling each other by other names. And, many people from East Africa, whenever they have told me, this is ke please, tame jare koi nahi baat karo ne, naam nahi leta, main naam ti koi nahi rakta. Or a title in apo. Some of these titles I cannot say from Mimbar Rasul. You know what I'm talking about. And so perhaps there might be an indication towards this, if it is not a rude or an insulting or a degrading or a derogatory, maybe that is different. But you'll see one thing that is talking about nicknames and insulting names that the Quran Majid in Surah Hujurat. In fact, our organization, Kitchen, has published a tafsir. It's available in your Tabligh bookshop. It is called the Islamic Moral System. It is a full tafsir of, of course, when I say full, it is a tafsir of Surah Al-Hujurat. And a very beautiful way of how the morality, the development of the foundations of Islam are laid down. The Islamic moral system. And much of it is based on the teachings of Ayatul Nasr Makarim and other Mufassirin of the Quran Majid. So, we see that she replies him, she doesn't use his name. She uses his kunya, his title. Because one of the things that not only are we allowed, but we are encouraged, is to call our spouses and our children, family members, by terms of endearment. By loving terms. The problem is we will call our office secretary darling, but we will not call our wife nicely. She becomes expendable, but that secretary who is taking my notes and who's doing my files, and she's everything. That's why, in the West, they actually have something called the workplace spouse. And it's something that it has been a horrendous issue in the community. And astaghfirullah rabbi wa ta'ala, what it has done is something that, like I said, things sometimes from the mimbar become difficult to talk about, but they are a reality. And they're creeping into our community as well. We are forgetting our wajibat, our muharamat, our own basic akhlaq. And one of the things, this was going to be actually another topic, but because it has come, I feel obliged just to mention it. One of the things that the society around us, the non-Muslim, the kuffar, the atheistic, the ungodly society has done to the Muslims all over the world is that they have taken this concept of refutation and hatred of guna, of sins. They've taken that from our hearts. Now when Muslims see sins being committed, it doesn't bother them. They don't feel anything when they have to shake hands with a na-mahram. Or they are looking or glancing deeply at somebody who is a na-mahram, who's of the opposite sex. They don't even think twice about it. When they see that this country has allowed homosexuality, that country has banned hijab, this country has not allowed halal meat to be happened anymore. It's happening in Europe, countries upon countries. One country has banned halal, zabah, slaughtering. Other countries have banned hijab. Niqab has been banned in numerous countries. You can see it opening. And the problem, what is happening? We Muslims are feeling apathetic. We are not worried about it. We're not concerned about it. Because that love of Amr bil Maruf and Nahi al Munkar, that has been taken out of our hearts slowly. Tamaro business che, olona business che. Bale ene je karo I kare, tamaro je karo noi tame karo. And they have got a major slogan in the West, MYOB. Mind your own business. You don't have to worry about whatever anybody else is doing. Why are you worried about what he's doing? What sins that are being committed in the society? If we allow this, same-sex marriages, why are you worried about it? What business is it of yours? Don't you have enough to worry about? Don't you have your loan payments and car payments and mortgage? Don't you have enough on your mind? Don't you have enough stress? And so they take that concept away and they make us become apathetic. It becomes inner. કોઈને વ્યાધિ નથી કે ક્યાં ક્યાં ગુનાહ થાય છે કમ્યુનિટીમાં કે સોસાયટીમાં. કોઈને કાંઈ કહેવું નથી કે તમે શું કરો છો? આ ગુનાહ છે, રજા નથી આપણને. You will see people eating in Maha Ramadan, openly, flagrantly violating the laws of Allah. Nobody will have their courage to say, it's Maha Ramadan. Are you sick? Are you a musafir? Are you traveling? Why are you eating? Namaz no time che. Why aren't you in the masjid? We don't worry about anybody anymore. One Marhum Allama Zishan Haider Sahib Qibla used to narrate when he would give us talks. He says that there are so many sad things happening with namaz, with salat, with our ibadat. He said, jare koine picture ma, movie ma, cinema ma jawo hase na, to sab apne doston ko bolenge, chalo ek movie night hai, half price hai, discount hai, navi movie nikali rahi hai, navi cinema navu hai, chalo apne sathe jaye. Let's go. But if people are at my house for namaz, it's time for iftar, it's time for maghrib or dhuhrain, what will I say? Mane 5 minute aun jak namaz padhi na avu chu. Why don't we take them? Chalo apne sathe jaine namaz padhi le. Chalo apne masjid mein jaine namaz padhiye. In the Western world, in North America and Europe, this is what's happening. Here, alhamdulillah, the masjid is closed, so peer pressure is to come to the masjid. But the love of the masjid is slipping away out of our hearts. The love of the family, which has been and is and needs to be, should be, must be, the whole foundation of our whole community and our society, it's eradicating, it's crumbling, it's rotting. If you look at not only our Khoja world, the Shia world, look at the rates of divorces today. Do I need to go any further? Do we need to say anything more? Look at the rates that we are at. How close we are to the non-Muslims on this field. We have forgotten, or we are overlooking, we're neglecting the message of Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The message of Thaqalain is being forgotten. Not Maulana Thaqalain ka bhi message hai. I'm talking about that Thaqalain. We are forgetting. We are overlooking it. We are neglecting it. And then we're wondering, ke sukam athai che, senamate apni qaum ni aa halat thai gayi che, aa community bagri gayi che, sukam bagri gayi che. Who has made it? We have spoiled it. We have nobody else to blame but ourselves. Nobody else to blame. It's in our hands. I mentioned this on this first or second night. We have it in our hands. The arrow is with us. The treasure is at our feet. You remember that discussion, I hope, inshallah. I don't have a habit to repeat. So that is at our feet, but we're looking everywhere else. We go here and there and we're wondering why this taweez is not working, why that magician's do this is not working, why that hocus pocus potion is not working. Maybe we need to understand that the potions and these hocus pocus, maybe we need to understand what is the reality. Instead of looking at this magic, let us look at the du'as and the mu'ajizat, inshallah. Ask the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask the help of Imam al-Zamana, and make sure that our actions are in confirmation with Quran and Majid and Ahlul Bayt. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It is good to ask, but it's just as important to act. 3 letters in both. Ask from Allah, and then act as well. Make sure your amal reflects that. It has to complement it. You see how respectfully that she talks to you, replies to him, wa alayka salam ya Abul Hasan. She takes his kunya. If you talk to any Arab, they'll tell you that when they take the name, it's a certain lower, lesser level of respect. But when they say your kunya, they say Abul Hasan. When my Iraqi friends, they call me Abu Mukhtar, they say because we respect you. And that's how we deal with people respectfully. So we see that even Hazrat Sayyidah, Hazrat Siddiqah, who is the leader of all the women of the world, the mother of 11 A'immah, somebody who is at the level of tahara that no other lady or no other human being could even reach close to. She is respecting her husband, wa alayka salam, ya Abul Hasan, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. What more can I say? If we respect our wives and our wives respect us, where will the jagra be? Where will the larai be? Kya jaise larai? Kya jagra the sada? Kya hote jaise? There will be love, fraternity, muhabbat and muwaddat in the family, in the house. And I know that I had mentioned to the Mu'mineen that Saturday was going to be my night on technology and modernity, science and Islam. I will inshallah ask your forgiveness to postpone that till Sunday night instead of tomorrow, because I will need to finish this. And if your acceptance is there, I will request one salawat from you. If your acceptance is not there, then I'll give you a chance to do another salawat afterwards. One salawat if you are okay with that, inshallah. It is only because my time has gone and I do not wish to make it inconvenient for the Mu'mineen. Because inshallah there's very more important parts of the hadith that I have not even begun to discuss. I just wanted to make sure this is a beginning for tomorrow's continuation on that, inshallah. So with that, I'm assuming, inshallah, that the Mu'mineen will be supportive on that. Because when we look at that respect, we look at that love, and we see how that has gone on to lead to that family being an ideal model family for others to emulate and be an example. And you see all of the A'immah and the Prophet himself, even when the wives were not up to the same level of par, you see how the Prophet dealt still as lovingly as possible. You see in the life of Imam Hassan, even those who were opposed to his imamat and to his very essence, the Imam was still living according to his akhlaq. And you see Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussein ibn Ali in Karbala Mu'alla, living out the same respect and care for the wife that was with him in Karbala Mu'alla. And that is why you hear him saying that the house in which Rabab and Sakina are not in, that house is darkness. मेरे मौला का जुमला है, जिस घर में रबाब और सकीना ना हो, उस घर में अंधेरा है. ये वो रबाब है, रबाब का भी देखिए, रबाब का भी तकवा देखिए, रबाब का भी मोहब्बत देखिए. जब मैदान करबला में शब आशूर मेरे मौला हर खैमे में जा रहे थे, हर खातून की बात सुन रहे थे, माँ अपने बेटे के साथ बात कर रही थी, उम्मे फरवा कासिम को बता रही थी कि कल जान शहीद करना है, कल जान कुर्बान करना है चचा के लिए. और जब हजरत ज़ैनब के खेमे से गुजरते हैं तो मौला यही सुनते हैं कि ज़ैनब कुबरा और मोहम्मद से बात कर रही है कि कल मामू जान के लिए जान कुर्बान करना है. मैं दूध का कसम है, अगर जान नहीं दी है तो मैं माँ नहीं समझूंगी आपको. लेकिन जब मेरे मौला उम्मे रबाब के खेमे से गुजरते हैं तो उम्मे रबाब रो रही है, हाथ में अली असगर है, करीब में सकीना है. उम्मे रबाब ने कहा, इमाम हुसैन ने कहा, रबाब खैरियत तो है, रबाब खैरियत तो है. उम्मे रबाब ने कहा, मौला कल हर माँ अपने कुर्बानियों को तैयार कर रही है, हर माँ अपने बेटों को कह रही है कि कल जान देना है, कुर्बानी देनी है. लेकिन वो मौला मैं बदनसीब हूँ, मेरे पास कोई कुर्बानी नहीं है कल के लिए, मैं कुछ कुर्बान नहीं कर सकती हूँ. हाय तारीख इस्लाम गवाह रहेगी, तारीख इस्लाम गवाही देगी. उम्मे रबाब की कुर्बानी ऐसी थी कि उम्मे रबाब ने जब समझा कि अली असगर तो नन्हा है, मैदान जहाद में नहीं जा सकते, सकीना तो लड़की है, औरतों को तो जंग में जाने की इजाजत ही नहीं है, क्या बताऊंगा उम्मे रबाब. असगर को भी मैदान में मौला ले जाएंगे, असगर की भी कुर्बानी कबूल की जाएगी, और जिंदान शाम में सकीना भी कुर्बान हो जाएगी. ए रबाब आपकी कुर्बानी कबूल होगी. Give us the tawfiq to remain away from gunah, forgive our sins, Ya Allah. Give us the strength to remain away from sins. Protect our ulama, our maraja, those who are ill, grant them shifa kamila from their illnesses. Those who are in debt, help them fulfill their debts. Those who have no children, grant them God-fearing, pious offspring. Those who have got children, keep them on the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, Ya Allah. Hasten the return of our Mawla, our Hujjah, Al-Qa'im, Ajal Ta'ala Dhuhuru. Make us amongst the Ashab and the Ansar of the Imam. Al-Fatiha lil-arwah al-mu'minina wal-mu'minat wal-ulama wal-shuhada. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. نستعين الذين أنعمت عليهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. وانصلوا على محمد وعلى محمد.